I'm Bob, an alcoholic. Before we start step 12, I just want a couple little questions I didn't get to. This is a good one. How do I get the bad thinking to stop in my head? I don't know. I just know I can tell you how to stop listening to it. I know that if you work the steps and you start sponsoring anybody, what happens is you'll start laughing at their stupid thinking and you'll end up laughing at yours. And when you can start laughing at the ridiculous stuff this thing says, this is a great entertainment tool. It's just a terrible management center. I think things all the time. I was at a bank the other day, and this teller is just flirting with this guy in front of her, right? And I'm in a hurry. And the stuff, and at first it got a little serious edge to it. I should go back into that office and bring this manager out here. You know, I was thinking, and then I started laughing at myself because I needed an infusion of reality. The reality is, why am I in a hurry? Where am I going? It's not like I'm late for another appointment, right? What am I doing? It's just Harry Tebow. Oh God, Harry Tebow in the Tebow papers, he talks about the alcoholic ego, and he compares it to His Majesty the baby, divine ruler of the universe. And that's where the impatience comes from, because His Majesty thinks it's beneath his station to wait like normal, mundane people, right? Or the intolerance is, you shouldn't act that way in the royal presence. You know, that kind of, oh God, it's just the egos. It's bizarre if you can laugh at it. If it owns you, bad deal. And that's what the thinking is in the head. Isn't that the voice of the ego? The chattering? The thing that's trying to scare you? Trying to make you do things that you're going to regret later, but paint you a picture that it seems like a good idea at the moment? All right, I think that's it. Oh. Is it a good idea to start sponsoring people before finishing all the steps? It's a very good idea. And I'll tell you why. There's nothing better. If I get a guy I'm sponsoring and he just finished step 5 and he's got a new guy that's on step 3 and the guy's breathing down his neck, he will keep going through the steps because they got the new guy coming right behind him. And it's never better to give it away than when it's fresh. I love watching that guys have other guys following right behind them through the steps. It's a beautiful thing. I want to talk a little bit about step 12 before we close. This is really the end game here. I think everything we do in Alcoholics Anonymous is not to make us happy. I mean, that's a byproduct. It's not to make us wonderful. It's not to make us anything other than more useful. Wilson refers to step 12 as the primary purpose. You know, as a guy who'd been diagnosed as clinically depressed, and tried various medications for that and failed, I discovered the same treatment for depression that Bill Wilson discovered. In his story, when he talks about there were times when he would be so full of self-pity and resentment that he would be afraid he was going back to drinking. And he said that in despair, he would go down to Towns Hospital and beg Dr. Silkworth to let him spend a couple hours with some guy detoxing. And then he said he'd be miraculously uplifted and set on his feet. And he called it a design for living that works in tough times. I've had that exact same experience. One of the great things my sponsor did when I was new is he pushed me into 12-step work. And I was new. I mean, the week I get out of detox, I'm starting to get the nudges. You know, you should get on the 12-step list. We want you to be one of the guys bringing the meetings back into the detox. We want you to help others. We want you, you know, you should start thinking about sponsoring people. You know, going to the prison. You want me to sign up for the meeting in the prison. It's just crazy stuff. And I've had a lot of therapy. I'm a smart guy. And I know what he's trying to do. He's evidently, I suppose that AA had a membership problem. They were trying to get as many people to recruit people as they could, I guess. I don't know. So I said to him, I said, you know, I understand what you're suggesting here, but for God's sakes, don't you think I should work on me for a while? And he reared back and he said, work on you? You've done quite enough of that. Stop it. And when he said that, I thought, you know, I have done a lot of that. I primal screamed. I did transactional analysis. I did rational emotive therapy with Ellis up in New York. I did Gestalt therapy with one of the guys who studied under Fritz Perls and Alan Watts. I did so much. And I did so much to fix Bob. And here I am in Alcoholics Anonymous coming in off a failed suicide attempt. I guess I've fixed myself enough, huh? And I started helping others, and I discovered the same thing Wilson did. And Wilson says something in his story that is really proven experientially to survive the test of time. He said that unless the alcoholic will perfect and enlarge his spiritual life through two things, and it's not what I would have thought. It's not through prayer and meditation. In my mind, to perfect and enlarge your spiritual life would have to involve prayer and meditation. It's not that. He says, unless the alcoholic can perfect and enlarge his spiritual life through self-sacrifice and constant thought of and work for others, he will never survive the certain, they're coming, bet on it, certain trials and low spots ahead, certain. I would not have survived myself all these years if it wouldn't have been for the nudging of a sponsor to do service and altruistic, other-centered actions that were very inconvenient, and yet I did them anyway. I wouldn't have survived myself. I could tell you a couple stories. One of them, my 11th, I talked a little bit about this yesterday, but one of the tougher 6 months of my sobriety was in my 11th year when I discovered that, when I got a divorce and discovered that my sponsee and best friend had been having an affair with my wife the whole last year of our marriage. And when we got divorced, I had the right to see my daughter whenever I wanted. I just didn't have the emotional ability. And what I say by that is, in order to go see my daughter, I had to go pick her up where they're living together, right? But I loved my daughter. I mean, I was the first human being to ever hold her when she was born. I was right there, cut the umbilical cord, the whole deal. I stole my heart. And I know about heartache because after a week or two of not seeing my daughter, I had that heartache. And so I walked through the fear, and I made an appointment to go pick her up and spend a day with her. She's only about 2 years old. And I'm driving over to where they're living together. And I got a knot in the pit of my stomach, man, I'm telling you. And I pull up to the front of where they're living, and I get out of the car, and I walk up to the door, and I ring the doorbell, and the happy couple answer the door, right? I says, "This Kate, I'm here to get Kate." And they go, "Kate!" And Kate comes running out, just the cutest little thing you've ever seen. I take her by the hand, we go out and get in my car, and we go off for the day. Had a bunch of stuff planned. I wanted it to be fun for her. First thing we did was went to have an early lunch at a place called Chuck E. Cheese. Do you have Chuck E. Cheese here? Yeah. Terrible pizza. Horrible. Horrible. My daughter loved it. What she loved is the games in there. For about $80, you can win a 10-cent ring. You know what I'm saying? Right. I'm telling you, I should have just bought a box of those 10-cent rings and gave them to her periodically. But no, she likes rolling those balls up that thing. And, oh, geez. So we spent quite a bit of time there and had this, I guess you call it pizza lunch. I don't know. And then I had this thing scheduled. A friend of mine had horses and was very involved in this huge ranch that was owned by the people who had the Legends in Concert show. And so I made an arrangement to meet my friend Julie there, and she was going to take Kate around and let her play and feed a lot of the animals. They had all kinds of animals there. They had rabbits and hutches, and they had horses and cows and a bunch of stuff. And they had the thing that she was excited about is they had ponies. And she was very excited. And these little Shetland ponies. And I told her we might be able to get to ride one. And she was very excited about it. She had little multicolored pony dolls and stuff, and she was very excited about ponies. And so we're there, and she was feeding the animals and playing with stuff. And it was really cool. And then we got to go to the corral and bring one of the ponies out. And we had to hold her on it because it was a little scary to her. But we took her around the corral. She really liked it once she got comfortable. And then we're sitting there next to the corral. There's a picnic table, and we're sitting there just done with the ponies. And the stable guy's taking the pony away. And my daughter's thirsty. So I'm sitting there with my friend who's involved in the ranch and my daughter. And I said to him, well, just stay here. I'll go across the yard. And next to the stables, there was a soda machine. So I left my daughter there with my friend who's involved in the ranch, and I went across the yard to go get some cans of soda. And I'm coming back across the yard. As I'm getting close to the picnic table where they're sitting, I hear Julie say to my daughter, Kate, here comes your dad. And Kate looks up at me, looks at the woman and says, that's not my daddy. Craig's my daddy. And I'll tell you something, it felt like somebody stuck a knife up under my rib cage and twisted. I didn't say anything. We learned that thing on the streets of pushing that stuff down. Learned that. And that's what I did. I pushed all those feelings down, went back and sat down, hung out with my daughter for a while, and then eventually it became time to take her home for dinner. And I'm in the car with her, and we're kind of kidding around a little bit, joking around. We've always done that. And driving up to the house, and as we get closer to where they live together, it gets a little more serious for me. And I pull up in front, and I take Kate by the hand, I walk her up to the door and ring the doorbell, and a frickin' happy couple answers the door. And she jumps into his arms, and they say goodbye to me, and I walk back to my car, and I get in the car, and I'm all by myself, and I drive away, and I make it about a block. And I pull over to the side of the road, and I just come apart at the seams. And I'm sitting in the car, and I'm crying, and I'm talking to God at the same time. And I'm saying to God, I love my daughter, but I can't do this. This hurts too much. I'm not big enough for this. I am sorry, I can't see her anymore, and it's breaking my heart. I look at the clock on the dashboard, and I'd remember I was supposed to meet this stupid newcomer down at one of the AA clubs because I promised him I'd take him to a meeting, a step study across town, and I'm supposed to meet him at the SOS club. And I don't want to go meet this guy. I need to go home and think. But you guys have brainwashed me to do what you say you're going to do, be where you say you're going to be, and crap, so I got to go get this guy. And I'm racing now because I'm going to be late. I get down to on Main Street, the SOS Club, and he's standing out in front of the SOS Club. I pull up, get in the car, head across town. We're not even a minute or two in the car, I guess, and he starts sobbing as he tells me that he's been denied by the courts one more time to see his kids. And I'm looking at him. And I'm thinking, something? There's only one person that can stop you from seeing your daughter, and that's you. And inside myself, I made the decision, I'll go see her again next week, and we'll spend the day together. And then the week after that, and the week after that. My daughter's 27 years old now. He's come and gone, and she's my little girl. We've been all over the world together. We've snow skied in the Rocky Mountains. We've done scuba diving together in New Zealand and Hawaii and all over the Caribbean. And we take usually a trip together once a year somewhere on a little vacation. This year we went to, it was the 20th anniversary of when I took her to Disney World in Orlando. And we went back there today, or not today, but this past year. She's my little girl. The single most important relationship in my life next to God. And I almost threw that away. And that new guy, he thinks I'm helping him. He saved me from myself. And God worked through him, as God always works through the people that you help. It's a funny dynamic here. The helper gets the help. Always. Always. My life is enhanced. My trust in God is enforced. My belief in the process of Alcoholics Anonymous is reinforced by the people that I try to help. Because when you sponsor a bunch of people, it's like having a ringside seat for the greatest show on earth, because you get to watch the hand of God in those people's lives. How many times, I can't tell you how many times I got a sponsee that looks like he's on the edge of the abyss. He's about to be homeless, about to lose everything, and I don't know what to say to him. So I just said, well, pray, trust God, I guess. And then it's like, all of a sudden, it just something happens, and the guy's all right. And I said, holy shit. Wow. That was very cool. I mean, it's like that old story of the priest walking down the street, and there's a little kid coming down the hill on a tricycle. And he crashes at the bottom right near where the priest is, and the kid goes, God damn it. The priest says, don't say that. Say, thank you, God. The kid goes, okay. Next day, the priest walking down the street. Here comes the kid again. Comes down, crashes. And this time he's scuffed up pretty bad. His pants are torn, and the front wheel of his tricycle is bent. And he starts to swear. Priest goes. The kid goes, thank you, God. And the wheel straightens out. The pants just grow back together. And the priest says, God damn it. Well, that's kind of like 12-step work. I mean, you tell these people to do certain things that you forgot worked. And then you see them work and you go, oh my God, that's amazing. It's amazing. I remain active in AA. I still do hospital and institution meetings. I sponsor guys. I always have a couple new guys, because what happened, what I discovered happened to me, I went through a period where and there's nothing wrong with this. I went through a period where all the new guys I would meet at the detox and at the treatment centers and stuff, I would funnel them to people I sponsor who I believe needed people to sponsor. And there's nothing wrong with that. Except that I went through, all of a sudden, everybody I sponsor is sober a long time. And what I just started to discover is I started getting just a little bit weird. Because they're all sponsoring people and doing very well, and they're not sick enough to relieve me of the bondage of self sufficiently anymore. And I discovered that if I always have one or two really crazy new people in my life, just You always need one that when the phone rings and you see their name, you go, oh, there better be a place in heaven for me. Right? And because those are the ones that'll change you. Those are the ones that'll change you. And I love that. I love that. I made a lot of mistakes in 12-step calls and 12-step work when I was first sober, because something, I never studied the book. I never read the chapter working with others. And so I had no principles. And if you're like me, if you don't lead with principles, you're going to lead with egotistical personality. That's all that's left. And so I'm trying to fix people. I made every mistake there was. I would try to fix their problems. I'd go, somebody needed a job, I'd go to somebody else in Alcoholics Anonymous, had a business, talk them into hiring the guy, and then the guy get drunk again, steal from the guy. Oh, just a mess. A mess. I had one guy who, here's how delusional. It's like when your ego is involved in 12-step work, it becomes all about you. I didn't know it, but it was all about me. And so I need to be a success so I can tout these sober people in front of the old timers and get some kind of kudos, right? So I got this guy who asked me to sponsor him, and he doesn't want to do anything. Matter of fact, he doesn't even go to meetings unless I take him there. Never put more energy into a newcomer's sobriety than they're willing to put in themselves. But I'm trying to fit. And he has warrants out for his arrest in another state. And he's always whining about these warrants. That's all he wants to do. He doesn't want to do anything. He wants to whine about them. So there was a guy named Roger who was, I had no idea how powerful he was. He was one of the top federal judges. Matter of fact, if you go to Las Vegas today, he's passed away. The federal building is named after him in Las Vegas. I just knew him from a guy I went to meetings with, and I went to him and I lied to him. I didn't even know I was lying to him, but I lied to him. What I said to Roger, I said, I'm working with so-and-so and he really wants to be sober. Well, the truth would have been, I'm working with so-and-so and I really want him to be sober. That was more of the truth. And I said, and he's really doing AA. Well, that's not true either. The truth would have been, and I really want him to do AA, and I think if I can help him with this legal problem, he'll be so grateful that he'll throw himself into being AA. In the middle of AA, sponsor a whole lot of people, and they'll all whisper my name. Oh, if it wasn't for Bob. That kind of thing, right? Well, I'm not thinking this consciously, but it's it's an ego proposition here with me. I don't know it. And so I talked to Roger, and Roger says, get me his Social Security number and his date of birth and name, everything. I did. And I don't know what Roger did, but his problem disappeared. And he was drunk before the week was out. Because what happened is that was what had brought him here, and the fear of that was what kept him here. And when I solved his problem, I solved his reason for being here. Do you know something? He could very well be dead. I've never seen him since. If he's finally did get sober, it's in a different city. He never came back. You know something, looking back, it might have been kinder to just put a pistol to his head and blow his brains out. With good, almost codependent intentions, I robbed him of the one thing, the difficult thing in his life that was driving him, that was pushing him towards a solution. I took it away from him. Bad deal. Bad deal. There's an old adage, if you give a man a fish, he'll eat for the day, but if you teach him how to fish, he'll eat for a lifetime. Newcomers are clamoring for fish. Old-timers are trying to give them fishing lessons. They don't want the fishing lessons. They want the fish. Take the fishing lessons. It'll change your life. The fish won't. The fish is temporary relief. Well, you don't need relief. You need freedom and change. I made so many mistakes in those days. It took me a long time to understand, to start putting the traditions in my life as a personal application. And when I did that, I found that the spiritual principles in the 12 traditions are designed to probably be, when practiced, the most effective method of practicing these principles in all your affairs. How do you practice selflessness except by understanding that you come last, that the common welfare, that the people here are more important than you are? How do you start doing that? And one of the things that it talks about in the 12th tradition, I didn't understand this for probably 20 years, and which is amazing that it took me that long. But the 12th tradition talks about putting principles before personalities, right? Well, here's what I thought. I thought these principles in AA, what would those be? Well, I guess tolerance and accept. I have to put those principles before your pretty bizarre, sick personalities. I thought that's what it was about. I was supposed to put these principles before your personalities. No. There's only one personality that is the source of my conflict and judgment and opinions and separation. It's putting those principles before my personality. It is my personality and my self-centeredness that is the source of all conflict and problems in my life. That Alcoholics Anonymous is a principle action-based program. It's a way of life. That if I can put these principles and live by them and let them lead me in my life with the help of a sponsor, that I can protect Bob from Bob. Because that's the guy I got to protect me from. I was working with a guy who was a cop, but his long suit, he was one of the great dog trainers in the U.S. I mean, he was touted all over the country. He trained dogs for TSA, for SWAT teams, for DEA, for all. I mean, he was amazing. He had this one dog. It was so trained that if he told that dog to sit, that dog would starve to death before it would move until he told it to. It was unbelievable, the things he could make a dog do. And I went to him one day and I said to him, you're probably the best dog trainer I've ever seen or heard of anywhere in the country. Do you think that you could teach one of your dogs to crap in its own food bowl? And he looked at me like, why would you want to do that? And I said, no, do you think you could do that? He said, no, I don't think I could. Isn't that something? Because an alcoholic will crap where he eats every single time. Look how some of us come to Alcoholics Anonymous and muddy the waters here with self-interest and me first positionings here. I'm a funny guy, and it took me years to wake up to some of this stuff. I'm a guy who thinks there should be rules. I just don't think they should apply to me. I think it's really important that people in meetings turn their cell phones off. But she might call. I think it's really important that we have handicapped parking. I mean, for God's sakes, of course we have. That's important. That's an important deal. There's handicapped people. They need easy access. Important. But I'm just going to be a second. I think the traffic laws are important. And I think everybody should abide by them. But I'm kind of in a special hurry today. I believe in the rules for you. I just don't believe in them for me. And if you can reverse that and grant the tolerance that you can do whatever you want, that these things don't apply. They're not here for me to apply them to you. They're here for me to apply them to me so that I'm more comfortable. No one ever gets more comfortable pointing out the things wrong with others. We only grow by noticing and correcting the things in ourselves. And the longer I'm sober, the more I realize the things that I have yet to do. And I have a bunch. It's funny, this spiritual growth thing, I often thought it was like the Dow Jones, just kept going up. Well, if that was the way it was, you would grow right out of the planet eventually, and I don't think it's like that. I think it's often much like walking to the horizon. You can walk for a long time and have come a long way and look up and you still have a long, undeterminable way to go. Because there is no end game here. It's in the journey. There is no destination. There is none. It's the journey is the destination. The journey is the point. The book says that we are to grow along spiritual lines. We don't claim perfection, but what we do claim is, and we can claim it honestly, that we made some progress here. That we made some progress. One of my favorite, I've become a guy that really loves Bill Wilson. And the reason I really love Bill Wilson is that he had all the egocentric characteristics that I have, and yet been graced by God by just a natural, intuitive humility that would often rise up in the midst of his natural inclination for self-will and ego and all that stuff. And if I can find it, I have a letter here that is my favorite thing that Bill ever wrote, and it's a response. I might talk about this and then not be able to find it. That would be tragic. It's a response that he made to a group in Chicago that just raked him over the coals, that just took his inventory and told him what he was, and here it is. And this is Bill's response. And I don't know if you'll be affected by his response and his honesty and humility as much as I have been, but this is my favorite letter. Wilson, after reading this letter and having his inventory taken harshly and criticized harshly, he said to this group, he says that you seem disillusioned with me personally may be a new and painful experience for you, but many members have had that experience with me. Most of their pain has been caused not only by my several shortcomings, but by their own insistence on placing me, a drunk, trying to get along with other folks upon a completely illusionary pedestal, a station which no fallible person could possibly occupy. I'm sure you will understand that I have never held myself out to anybody as either a saint or a superman. I have repeatedly and truthfully said that AA is full of people who have made more spiritual progress than I have ever or could make. That in some areas of living I have made some decided gains, that in others I seem to have stood still, and in still others I may have even gone backwards. I am sorry that you're disillusioned with me, but I am happy that even I have found a life here. Bill Wilson, 1960. He was 26 years sober when he wrote that. I want to be like that when I grow up. He never defended himself. He never explained himself. He never justified it himself. They're telling him, you're this, and he's just going, yeah. Because he knows the truth. He knows he's struggled with this stuff, as he said in the opening, and has been caused discomfort from it just as much as others. And see, isn't that true for all of us? I think what happens is that the people I separate myself from get on the same page about Bob as Bob is. When I do something to step on your toes, when I do something that's very selfish or self-serving, you don't like me for doing that, and you know something? Underneath the desperate seeking of gratification, the desperate seeking of self-grandizement, I really, truly feel about me the same way you do. We're all on the same page about Bob. And that seems to be inescapable. There's an old adage, I'm not punished for my sins, I'm punished by them. That's why some of us fallibly develop a desire to grow along spiritual lines, because I want to be comfortable. I don't want to be that guy anymore. Because when I don't like me and you don't like me, not good. And it's impossible for you not to like me without me not liking. Because if I've hurt you, inside me I know. And so I clean it up whenever I can, whenever possible. Anyway, that's it. I want to thank you all for listening. Before we end, could we try something? Could we end with the Lord's Prayer? And could we end with the word amen? My friend Mildred from Toronto gave me a gift last year. You know, I've really, over the years, come to value prayers that align themselves with the word only in step 11. I don't pray for my will. I don't tell God what to do. I think that would be the vainest use of his name. I just want his will. And the Lord's Prayer, for a while, it was confusing to me, because the first part of it lines up with that. Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, praising God, that's good. Thy will be done, that's like step 11. And then it shifts, and then you go from only praying for, just from that into giving him orders. You start telling him what to do. Give us this day, you write this down. Give us this day our daily bread, forgive us, remember, write that down, God. Forgive us, and you start telling him what to do. And Mildred said to me that if you went back in the old language that it was originally written in, that it used to have the word you. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. You give us this day, don't you, our daily bread. And Lord, you forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. And you've led us not into temptation. It's not giving God orders. It's an acknowledgement of his grace. So let's end with the Lord's Prayer. Hook up.